Yo, 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 what's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there? This is Weedman420 with the Weedman420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman?
Mr. Weedman?
How the hell are you?
Fantastic.
Fan-fucking-tastic?
Sure.
Hey, everybody. We hope everyone's doing well out there in the world today, and we hope that and pray that everyone is healthy, smoking big fat doinks, and living fine in this world. So we love you all. I'm going to talk a little bit about the grow that I just got done doing, and I posted some pictures of all of those lovely looking jars full of Majin Vegeta.
So many of them.
So let me take you through a little bit of this. And I was thinking about this a lot while I was finishing the drying process yesterday and trimming everything up and putting them in the mason jars. I want to go through the grow just for a minute. From the time I bought the seeds from Ghost Genetics, I learned a big lesson. And I had this talk with DVG and Umami Seed Company when it came to buying seeds. And I still a newbie grower, I guess you can call it. And when buying seeds online, I guess I didn't look at if they were regular seeds or if they were feminized seeds. And it just said reg on there. So to my mistake, when you get regular seeds, reg seeds, there could be male and female genetics in beans in the seeds that you buy. So to my mistake, I bought reg seeds thinking I was ordering feminized seeds, which are not easy to make. But I learned a valuable lesson to make sure you read what you're buying, the full thing. I was just excited because I'm a big Dragon Ball Z nerd, and I love Vegeta, and Majin Vegeta is one of my favorite characters in anime, and so I bought them. And I do have to say, you know, even though with the few males that I had grown, I did get 3 beautiful females with a shit ton of weed. And during this process, I learned a lot, buying seeds and making sure you ask the right proper questions and you read properly what you're buying. And no mistake of his, probably a bigger mistake of mine. I was probably a little bit stoned when I bought them. So I learned a valuable lesson. But nothing wrong with buying regular seeds, just that now I know when I buy regs, as you most of the time you see it on the websites, there will be male and female genetics. Maybe not all the time, but most of the time. So out of the 6 seeds I planted, I got 3 males and 3 females. 1 male I pollinated and kept. The other 2 I threw away. Should have pollinated them all and kept all of it, but I got nervous. But during the process of this grow, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about growing a sativa-style plant and learning how to grow that style of a plant, because the last few grows I have were indica strains. So a tent of my size, it was very, very small of a tent for the way those plants grew in that tent. A 5-foot high tent is not big enough height-wise unless you're really trimming and really doing a lot of work on it. I also learned a lot about bugs. I had a little bit of a fungus gnat issue that we managed and maintained. I didn't use any neem oil. I used just Dr. Bronner's with 1 cap full of hydrogen peroxide on the soil, and then we used a lot of the sticky tapes, and we maintained them. It was a little bit of an issue, wouldn't you say, Mrs. Weedman?
Yes, it was. Because then I had to worry about my house plants also.
Yes. So we had been using neem oil on the house plants to try to, but they're gone now. I have not seen any. So I think we took care of the issue. So it was a little bit of a learning process on that, learning how to deal with the fungus gnats, and also nutrient-wise on this one was a little bit different for me. I didn't over-nute anything, and I didn't overwater a lot on this indoor grow. One of my plants didn't take in a lot of water. The other 2 did. So I had to learn to manage timing of watering between 3 different plants. It was rough, and I don't water every day in soil. I check my plants every day to see if the soil is wet. So I learned a lot of process on the watering on this one. I learned a lot about nutrients on this one. I learned a lot about seed buying on this one. I learned a lot. And as I get better every time I grow and read more and ask questions and learn a lot from other growers that I follow online, and I follow on and talk to our good friend Earl217 Wes. I learn more and more all the time, so I'm getting better. But I did get a really, really, really good turnout. I got 9.2 ounces on this grow, over a half a pound. I'm extremely excited. I put a picture on a story on our Instagram of all the jars filled. The next picture I will put out there will be one of the buds that Mrs. Weedman took a picture of dried, and then also took a picture of it grounded up, because we did smoke it yesterday, and we're going to smoke it today for the show. And I will tell you this. Wow.
Yeah, right? Wow is an understatement.
Yeah, we smoked a whole bowl, and we were pretty lit.
Yeah,
would you say?
Yes.
And it hasn't even cured yet. So today is one full day of curing, and I did burp them, and I did do what I was supposed to do today on day one. If you don't know what burping is when you take the jars out and you open them up for a little bit, give them a little shake, let the air flow through there a little bit, and let them sit for like 30 minutes with the air open, and you close it back up and you put it away. So you do that once a day for the first few weeks, and then you lessen the burping stage. I've read some articles about burping. Some people say it's not necessary. Some people say it is necessary. I've done it on all of my grows, and it seems to work out. As it comes later down, you don't really need to do it at all. But I'm doing it now, and I tell you what, though, the smell is fantastic. It smelled so gassy and just like straight up, just funky, skunky. Just I don't know, just a smell I've never smelled before, and it was woo smelling. So it's got everything I want. The trichomes. Everything I smoked, I wanted. It was very, very, made everything crisp and bright and alive after we took a couple of hits off the bowl and then smoked a little bit more of the bowl, So it was very, 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 very sativa style strain, and I can't wait to get it tested to find out what the THC content is and what the terpenes are in there. But is it very? I would want to say it made me feel alive, like whoa. So what'd you feel on that?
I did not feel super heady, which was nice. I definitely felt high. My body felt relaxed, but I didn't feel cloudy in my thoughts.
That's good.
But I don't think I necessarily felt creative either. So we have to smoke it a few times.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely
not nearly as good at remembering all of the different qualities of how each strain of cannabis makes me feel.
Right.
I do know Kush strains are my thing, but specifically within that, I'm not nearly as good as Mr. Weedman at remembering those things.
Yeah, I have a pretty good memory even when I'm high. Tell you what, it's enjoyable. I like it. I cannot wait to get friends and family to try this strain and give me their opinion on it. That's the true test for me when I give some of my give nugs to people, and they let me know the truth. So, Mrs. Weedman, why don't you blow that bowl up and smoke Majin Fajita? And
I'm going with one hit this
yeah,
evening.
I think I'm going to do one to start and then see how it goes, because last night we did two back-to-back, and then about 15, 20 minutes later, we finished the bowl up with about two more hits, and I was...
And we both said we can't smoke this much when we do the show.
No, absolutely not. Not right now.
This will not
so,
work.
Yeah, this was, like I said, it made me very, very euphoric, and everything was bright and crisp. I really like it, though. It's enjoyable. So, Mrs. Weeman's going to say something while I take a rip off this bowl, yo. Oh, that was
I had to
big one.
Get rid of my rip real fast. You put me on the spot there.
Sorry about that.
I wasn't ready to talk. Sorry, everybody. Whew. And as we're recording here, we are going to be... I don't even know how you refer to it. Tomorrow's just a somber day. It's the 20th anniversary of September 11. 9/11, and just before we started recording, a special was coming on TV, and it just was such a reminder of what a devastating and awful, horrific, and life-changing day that was in American history, especially. And so if you get a moment, stop and think and say a little prayer or whatever it is that you do, put a little thought out there for the people that went through that. And anyway, let's not get off on a sad note, but It is part of our history.
It
right?
is. One more other thing. September is Suicide Prevention Month. And if you know someone you know is struggling, reach out. Here's a phone number: 1-800-273-TALK or 8255. So September is Suicide Prevention Month also. So please, if you know anybody, need anybody that needs help, give them that number. Yeah.
And for those of you, if there is someone out there listening that is feeling suicidal or helpless or hopeless, you may think that people don't care, and you may think that people don't understand. And there is a lot of truth in that. There are people that don't care, and there are people that will never understand. But there are people that will listen, and there's always someone that will listen. So pick up the phone. If you don't feel like you have that person that will help you, pick up the phone and call that number. Say it again.
Let me get the number out. It's okay.
But just call it and reach out, because tomorrow could be another day, and it could be a better day. And you won't know that if you just reach out to somebody.
So it says here, it's they're here for you 24/7, 365 days at 1-800-273-8255. So if you need somebody, give them a call. Let's start the show.
Let's do it.
All right. It's a really good article. It's time to disrupt our market obsession with THC. The cannabis market is hyper-focused on THC, but the plant contains much more than just a single intoxicating compound. And we've talked about this a lot, that it's not about high THC content. It's about the whole plant. I'm a THC lover. I smoke it every day, every night. And it's just to give people more than just about the THC, though, because it is, I've talked about this numerous times, that whole plant is just amazing. So walk into a dispensary today and you'll find shelves lined with high THC flower. While it's easy to assume that consumers are driving the THC-rich trend, this is not the case. The products on dispensary shelves reflect more what growers bring to the market than what consumers would enjoy and benefit from the most. As many of you have discovered through trial and error, high-potency strains aren't always fun. Over time, this is in parentheses, I hope you use the term cultivar more widely, and that strains only refers to viruses. That's interesting. So I hope you use the term cultivar. Strains are referred to viruses. So many consumers have adverse reactions to large doses of THC, like paranoia, anxiety, and discomfort. The high rates of THC found in common strains are lingering results of cannabis prohibition. But with prohibition now long behind us, we should focus on the customer experience and not potency. It's time to move away from the obsession with THC. I'm going to say one thing before I move on. Some people need the high THC. Some people have been smoking cannabis for so long that a low dose may not work for them. Some people need that 28 to 36. Some people do. Some people need it for medical purposes, for pain relief, stuff like that. But not everybody. So if you like your high THC strains, I am not knocking that at all, because I've smoked high THC strains myself. But I'm just more reading about this for the newbie, the beginner smoker, or somebody that just not into the high THC strains. So prohibition and the rise of THC-rich cannabis. Historically, we can draw many parallels between cannabis and alcohol. Prohibition drove production of both underground, which meant that distillers and cultivators alike hid their production in small spaces. From a straight business perspective, that's logically meant focusing on higher strength products. During the era of alcohol prohibition, spirit makers moved away from beer and cider to produce strong alcohol, namely moonshine and whiskey. If you don't know what moonshine is, it could be up to like 200% alcohol content in that thing. So,
without moonshine, we wouldn't have RSO.
Yes, that's
Rick
very
Simpson
true.
oil.
Yeah, that's very
right?
true. Similarly, cannabis cultivators began selecting the THC-rich cultivators above all else. Producers were more concerned with packing more punch into smaller packages and crafting personalized end-user experiences. Today, we face the ramification of those choices. Decades of cannabis prohibition has had a disastrous effect on planet's genetic diversity. And these are precisely the bottlenecks in the cannabis genome that we want to rectify to highlight all the possible experiences this plant offers. The problem with high THC. When biotech institutes first began working with cannabis over a decade ago, they facilitated dozens of market experiments that involved testing and analysis of the most common cultivars in California in the Naparro laboratory. As a result, a significant majority fell into high THC category, and none contained applicable amounts of other cannabinoids. What's more, most could be sorted into just a few terpene profiles. Over the years, regulators and researchers have issued warnings about high THC trend. Several studies published in the past 15 years have measured increased levels of THC and decreased levels of CBD from samples taken in the U.S. and abroad. A 2020 investigation explored recreational medicinal cannabis in several legal markets, including California, Washington, Colorado, Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont. After sampling 8,505 cannabis products from 653 dispensaries, the researchers reported that the majority of the THC products had 15% THC from all states. This was the highest category of consideration in their study. As a reminder, THC averaged around 4% in 1995. Jeez. That's why I smoke so much. Why is this a problem? Although some consumers enjoy the effects of THC-rich products from a therapeutic perspective, low to moderate doses provide the most relief with the least risk of adverse effects. The preliminary clinical guidance of medicinal effective doses often reiterates the adage, start low and go slow. We've talked about that line multiple times. An initial dose may be as low as 2.5 milligrams of THC, with a suggestive maximum daily dose following self-triation of only 40 milligrams of THC. Considering most, if not all strains, filling dispensary shelves are now averaging more than 15%, and sometimes pushing over 30%. A consumer could quickly exceed the dosage after a single session with friends. Many of us have had a bad trip when using too much THC. But there are also more serious safety concerns. Researchers have connected high-potency cannabis with psychotic disorders, cannabis use disorders, hippocampal harm, as well as other addictions and anxiety disorders. That's what it says, hippocampal.
He felt the eyes upon him. I think my head spun like The Exorcist. What'd you say?
I was waiting for the turn too. Hippocampal.
All right.
Hippocampal.
Okay.
Do you turn into a hippopotamus when you smoke too much?
I think you do.
I do.
I might.
It's time to disrupt the cannabis experience. Despite the scientific findings, the market is still hyper-focused on THC, but this plant contains much more than just a single intoxicating compound. There are over 100 cannabinoids and at least 150 terpenes packed into the species. With so much potential beyond extreme intoxication, it's time to open up the genome and disrupt the market obsession with THC. It's time to enhance the cannabis experience. I've said this before. I'm all about experiences. I am. I love the experience. So how do we make cannabis better? This is the article's opinion. First, we need to focus on the user's experience, whether recreational or medicinal. It has to be fun, effective, and tasty. Not everyone wants to get blitzed. Instead, many consumers seek calm, creative relaxation, inspiration, other nuanced effects, or mood enhancements. I'm going to agree and disagree with that. There's people out there that like to get baked. And then there's people that want to have it just for everything else I just mentioned. So, using our evidence-based targeted breeding model, we set a goal and then breed toward it. For example, we've created a series of cultivars with different cannabinoid ratios, THC dominant mixed with THC, CBD, and CBD dominant, all with near identical terpenoid profiles. Our testing has found that each cannabinoid ratio offers subtle, different, fun, and therapeutic experimental effects. This means it's possible to curate the journey, but stick within a specific taste profile. From THC-rich to CBD-rich to THCV-rich and everything in between, you get the terpenes you want with the buzz you desire. Remember, we talked about it on another show about eventually they're going to come up with, you're going to be able to fill out a form of what you want. Someone will make that strain exactly for you, what you need. You've talked about that before. Yep. Yeah. For example, our limonene superclass series with limonene as a dominant terpene could offer analgesic and antidepressant effects. Combined with high levels of CBD, there may be interesting synergistic effects for mood disorders. Under our targeted breeding approach, it is now possible to test each side by side in a much more clinical controlled manner. Targeting breeding now allows for controlled whole plant cannabis research in a way that was never possible before. making cannabis more enjoyable and effective. It's hard to imagine a world where there's only one option at the liquor store: 190 proof grain alcohol. Yet, that's essentially what the cannabis sector looks like, even years after the end of Prohibition. A dispensary dominated by the high THC flower is exclusionary, not therapeutically valuable. Too much THC often produces harmful effects that run entirely contrary to the positive results of smaller THC amounts. We know the plant has the potential to craft an experience for just about everyone. Want a CBD rich cultivar that tastes like lemon crush, happy pineapple, or Girl Scout cookies? Looking for a cultivar that specifically targets pain or inflammation, or both? Now we can breed toward particular ends to create better cannabis through this data driven approach. I like the name cultivar.
Cultivar.
It's kind of like a sommelier or a cicerone. I call them chicharrones.
Fancy.
Fancy.
Fancy schmancy.
It is now possible to find out which option among many offers an effective and enjoyable experience for a specified end goal. You like that? Specified end goal. So I think that's great that they talked about this in this article. It was written by Mark Lewis, and I've read a lot of his articles. He's a good writer. But I do like that they're starting to do some more research and finding these findings. Like I said, I like high THC content, but like I said, I enjoy my 15 to 20% THC strains that have the therapeutic effects that I need for sleep or for inflammation or for my backache and stuff like that. I do like to get baked. Don't get me wrong. I do enjoy getting baked. But I like to use cannabis for much more than that. So hopefully that helps everybody, and hopefully they get some more where they can tailor what you need for just you. Now, talking about genomes, what unlocking the genomes of cannabis strains tell us? So this was another article by Thomas Mitchell, and this is kind of like an interview, so it's going to be back and forth a little bit. And I thought this was important to read after I read that last article. As fun as it may be, recognizing cannabis varieties by names like sour diesel and runts isn't the most scientific way to identify the effects and the potential medical benefits we're looking for in weed. The real answers lie within the genetics. And as commercial legalization spreads, companies are competing to map them out for their marketing potential. Colorado had a head start in the race in the United States, but medical cannabis research has been federally legal in Israel for decades, and some seriously interesting stuff about the cannabis genome is being discovered there. To get up to speed, we caught up with, I'm going to butcher the name and I apologize, Leor Shatau. Oh, maybe I got it right. A lead researcher at Israel-based cannabis research and development facility in Ibenia. I probably butchered that. Westworld. What exactly are genomes and how do they fit in the grand scale of the way cannabis exists and evolves? And this is Mrs. or Mr. Chatau. The cannabis plant's genome encompasses all of the plant's genetic information. The plant's phenotype is the expressed genome, and it accounts for the plant's characteristics, such as chemical composition and appearance. Due to the environmental factors and adaptations, the plant's genome may change as part of the evolution and natural selection to better survive and adapt to new environments. These adaptive processes led to the creation and diversification of cannabis genomes, producing more strains with varied effects that humans can benefit from. How does identifying and mapping out genomes help us understand more specific qualities of cannabis? By researching and studying the cannabis genome, we can learn about its express phenotype and more specifically about its express phytochemical makeup. The phytochemicals in cannabis include terpenes, cannabinoids, flavonoids, and many more diverse compounds. These compounds are the fundamental building blocks of cannabis therapeutic benefits. By mapping out the individual's characteristics, the industry can engineer products with highly specific applications based on consumer preference and patient's need. That's going to be fucking awesome. That's all I got to say about that. For example, Ibania is pursuing ethnobotanical research into cannabis genome, with a particular focus in this case on the known daytime sativa-like effects and the nighttime indica-like effects. The work will help identify the specific phytochemicals that create these well-known effects and help brands further meet the functional needs of consumers across form factors. Another question. How much research into the cannabis genome was conducted before states began legalizing the plant? In Israel, the long-standing history of cannabis research is tied to Professor, the best, Raphael Mechelen, one of the pioneers of the field. During the 1960s, Mechelen began investigating the cannabis plant after learning about the isolation of morphine from opium. Through his collaborative efforts with Dr. Yachel Janot and Dr. Yuval Chauveau, Mechelen was able to isolate many cannabinoids, most notably CBD in 1963, and THC, the psychoactive compound found in cannabis, in 1964. I really wish they would get rid of the whole psychoactive compound thing. It just, when I say the word psychoactive, it kind of makes me think like it makes you crazy. Kind of. I know there is some, it plays with your...
Or like psychology, psychosis.
Yeah, something. I don't know. I just don't like the word. I think I've said that before. At present, Israel is consistently graded among the top locations for cannabis research and is actively encouraged the industry's growth. As more countries push toward the full legalization, Israel's scientific approach combined with friendly legal framework and ongoing research efforts have helped position the local industry to blossom. With the government's steadfast approval alongside the rich history of cannabis research within its borders, Israel's cannabis sector is busily planting the seeds of tomorrow for big developments. At what point does the strain model and current way of breeding become obsolete as you further research cannabis genomes and DNA? Crossbreeding and inconsistent growing conditions, variations across humidity, soil, nutrients, sunlight, and temperature can lead to change in the cannabis phenotype. Over time, this creates a greater gap between the plant that the strain was originally named for and the plant that actually gets to consumers' hands. This process dilutes the strain's originally genetic qualities and essence. For example, today the characteristics Kush, which you talked about a minute ago, essence of OG Kush may not be the same as it used to be, especially because of the crossbreeding. Modern harvesting and extraction methods also cause significant loss of the plant's distinctive volatiles. Ibinia mapped this loss in a previous study, and this research helped inspire their live line. Ibinia's belief is that the phytochemical makeup of a strain should be its main identifier instead of the given strain name. This ensures a data-driven standardizations and will help bring consistency back to the well-loved strains and open new doors for strain innovation. Ibinia's enhancer line started at the genome level, tracing 3 OG strains back to their original breeders and using these samples to identify the genetic characteristics that define Kush, Skunk, and Diesel. By mapping and packaging this data-driven standards for 3 iconic strains, the enhancer line allows for the introduction of authentic desired essence that cannabis products may be lacking today due to the natural divergence from the original genome, as well as post-harvest process. Man, that's some big stuff right there. There's more to this article. I'm going to read it in a second. But just that part alone, because all 3 of those strains I've smoked in my life, but I've also smoked hybrids from those for so many years. So I could see what they're saying, being bred out, just like a dog, like where they breed so much that they bred that line to like shit, that we hear about in certain lineage of dogs today. I don't know. It's kind of cool.
Dogs and weed,
Does your research validate or invalidate any claims or beliefs about identifying cannabis and how certain cultivators and terpenes are tied to certain effects? Ibinia's efforts with Sech Medical Group resulted in uncovering a certain terpene pattern that correlates to nighttime strains and daytime strains. The study was conducted on medical cannabis patients in Israel and highlighted the phytochemical difference between these 2 strains, showing correlations between certain terpenes and effects. Some of these correlations validated certain existing claims, and some contradicted previous findings and claims. The results provide us with the understanding that there is still much more to uncover when it comes to phytochemicals, effects on the pharmacological value of cannabis products. Damn, this weed makes me smarter.
Yeah?
I can actually read words.
I love it.
Have you had to correct me yet? Except for one.
Yeah, keep it going. Keep going. Don't break the
with the
stride you've
right
got.
with the right data, tools, and people, Abenya is hard to at work cracking these codes and unlocking the world of targeted, data-driven cannabis experiences. That's kind of cool. Experiences. Does the growing scenario of environment impact the cannabis genome? The fact that genetically identical plants can have vastly different phenotypes demonstrate the gene-environmental interaction is a key regulator of phenotypic diversity. Environmental factors play an important role in the production of the characteristics in cannabis. However, they do not change the genome. Genetic adaptation is the change in the genome that occurs to fit a new environmental and is the key agent in evolution. For example, the leaf morphological change that occurred to cannabis sativa throughout the years is believed to be due to temperature and adaptation from a cold and hot climate. And the phytochemical difference may be due to the exposure of new pathogens, diseases, and new environments. God, this article is great. Breeders of the world's most beloved strains got started by experimenting with genetic adaptations. With the enhancer line, Abenya is working to help preserve the legacy and authenticity and embrace the process of evolution and change that naturally continues. They believe that introducing a new genetics-driven approach to cannabis will be crucial to help the industry further expand, innovate, and reach new communities worldwide. All right. So I'm not an expert. I've said it 100 times. I'm learning and hoping to help others learn. This, I hope, between both of those articles, especially this one by Westworld, phenomenal article written by Thomas Mitchell. Unbelievable. Talking about the science and what they're doing in Israel and just so far ahead of the United States when it comes to cannabis research. I mean, it's amazing what all they were talking about. I mean, they did discover THC and CBD. So another new cannabinoid I just learned about, THCP, a recently discovered high-potent natural cannabinoid. Natural. So what is... I'm not going to go into all the THCs and all of them. So what THCP, enhancing THC's binding ability. THCP is one of the newest cannabis compounds to be discovered, having first been documented in the late 2019. Again, the main difference researchers found in THCP compared to Delta-9 THC is that THCP has a longer alkaloid chain, which is believed to be a vital factor in the way THCP interacts with the body's CB1 receptors compared to other THCs. In organic chemistry, an alkali is an alkaline that is missing one hydrogen molecule. The term alkali is intentionally specific to include many possible substitutions. Alkalis from homoglobulous series and most of the simplest series have the same general formula. So let's see. What are the findings and implications of these? The main reason this discovery has been everyone's so excited is because researchers believe that THCP mimics the effects of THC in the body, but at a much more effective rate. Although THCP is a minor phytocannabinoid, its presence can still impact the high VIA, the entourage effect, and many in the scientific community believe it can do so more efficiently than other traces and compounds. This brings us to the next question. As a minor compound, how much THCP is required to produce a noticeable difference in either medicinal or psychoactive effects? And exactly how much THCP is found in most strains? As much as he'd like to give an exact answer, the reality is that the research just hasn't made it that far yet. The scientists who discovered THCP only had access to one strain, provided by the federal government of Italy, and then they found very little THCP. However, it was worth noting the statement in the report claiming that it's reasonable to suppose that other cannabis varieties may contain even higher percentages, although they can't say for sure without actually lab testing. So... other experts disagree with Dr. Samuel Bannister from the University of Sydney, who believes the difference in effects is not that substantial. While this possibility cannot be ruled out, Bannister stated the known potency differences of THC and THCP at cannabinoid receptors is relatively small, while the difference in abundance of each in cannabis is enormous. The same is true with CBD and CBDP. Although CBD requires even higher doses to achieve many of its pharmacological effects, for this reason, they don't feel that the minor or trace phytocannabinoids like THCP or CBDP contribute significantly to the psychoactive effects of different cannabis strains. So, bottom line, there's got to be some more research done on THCP, but it's cool they found another cannabinoid. So every time I read about a new cannabinoid, I'm going to let you know about it. So the more we know, the more we grow. Weed, that is. I just thought of that. See, this strain makes me smarter.
It makes you a thinker.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
You're being creative.
Breastfeeding.
Well, that's a different subject.
We're going on a fully different subject.
We're going there.
Mother's milk.
Yep.
The best form of milk out there.
For the baby.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
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 Do you realize there's guys that pay for breast milk?
Yeah, we don't need to go there.
But I'm saying we saw that thing. We
weird.
Saw that 2020 thing one time, and there was people that actually buy breast milk because it says it helps them heal cancer and all that stuff.
Well, there's breast milk banks, like women who want their child to be breastfed, but they can't produce enough milk or they're incapable of breastfeeding. You can have milk donated for your baby. I don't know how they screen it for. I'm sure there's some sort of screening. Yeah, there's
got to be testing. Yeah, 100%.
But I know that there's moms too. I've seen it on like social media pages. Moms who will share their milk, just like neighborhood mom who's like, "Hey, I got 24-ounce bags of milk. Who wants them?" And people will be like, "Me," for their baby.
Right.
Yeah, but without any interference of like medical testing or anything.
Well,
but anyway, let's get to the point.
Can you smoke weed and breastfeed?
Long story short, no. But I'm going to give you some background to that. Because more and more people are smoking weed, more and more people are talking about weed, and people are always having babies. So most of us are aware, this is an article that we've got here, most of us are aware that smoking weed during pregnancy is an unsafe practice and will refrain from doing so while expecting. If smoking weed is important to you, perhaps because you use it for medical purposes or to relax and unwind, you might be looking forward to resuming once your baby is born. But things can get a little complicated if you're breastfeeding. You likely know that certain substances pass through breast milk and can affect your baby, but you might be unsure if that's the case with weed. You might also be uncertain as to how the ingredients in weed could affect your baby if they are exposed through breast milk. If you are breastfeeding, it is advised that you abstain from smoking weed. Kim Landon, an OB-GYN based in Ohio, shares the same sentiment that her other medical professionals do. I would advise against consuming cannabis while breastfeeding, she says, explaining that THC, the active ingredient in cannabis that gets you high, is excreted into breast milk. Moreover, THC could have negative effects on your baby's neurodevelopment. It's clear that the ingredients in cannabis make their way into breast milk, and that those ingredients, particularly THC, can have negative effects on your baby. Tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, the ingredient in weed that alters your mood, is excreted into your breast milk in large quantities. Jessica Madden, pediatrician and neonatologist, and medical director at Airflow Breast Pumps, cites research published by the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine, which says that THC is 8 times higher in breast milk than in a breastfeeding parent's blood. That's pretty crazy. Ooh. Additionally, THC may be present in breast milk for up to 6 weeks, says Dr. Madden. Babies whose mothers use cannabis while breastfeeding have cannabis metabolites in their stool, evidence that cannabis definitely passes from mothers to babies via breast milk, Dr. Madden explains. Not only that, Dr. Madden says there is evidence of THC impacting babies' developing brains, as well as causing potential long-term cognitive damage. As Dr. Landon explains, more research needs to be done on the subject of cannabis use in breastfeeding, but what doctors know is concerning enough for them not to recommend its use. Major medical organizations agree as well. The Academy of American Breastfeeding Medicine states, breastfeeding mothers should be counseled to reduce or eliminate their use of cannabis to avoid exposing their infants to this substance and advised of the possible long-term neurobehavioral effects from continued use. Similarly, the American Academy of Pediatrics says that using cannabis while breastfeeding is not safe for your child. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists echoes these sentiments also. They say there is insufficient data to evaluate the effects of cannabis use on infants during lactation and breastfeeding. And in the absence of such data, cannabis use is discouraged. Even if you're not breastfeeding, smoking weed near your baby comes with the potential of them inhaling secondhand smoke, Dr. Madden says, which can be harmful to their health as well as their lungs. It also may not be safe for you to care for your baby if you're under the influence of cannabis. The active ingredients in cannabis, THC, is excreted into your breast milk in large amounts and can have negative effects on your babies. Let's look at those effects in more detail. There's the issue of cognitive issues in babies. As the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine points out, babies are especially vulnerable to the effects of cannabis. Exposure to cannabis during critical periods of brain development can induce subtle and long-lasting neurofunctional alterations, they explain. Babies who've been exposed to large quantities of weed through breast milk may have reduced muscle tone and issues with sucking, says Dr. Madden. In addition, she says, cannabis use is associated with an increased risk in SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. And then there are potential long-term issues. There are concerns that the effect of cannabis usage during breastfeeding that may extend beyond the newborn period, says Dr. Landon, that there's little research on THC and children, but we do know that frequent use in teenagers can lead to schizophrenia, she says. Dr. Madden explains that long-term studies that looked at fetuses and babies who'd been exposed to cannabis found impairments in school-age children's cognitive abilities, visual integration, memory, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. She also described potential links to cannabis exposure and ADHD and hyperactivity. And of course, you have the danger of secondhand smoke. If you're smoking while breastfeeding, you're exposing your child to both the ingested THC and the breathing of secondhand smoke. Vaping instead of smoking doesn't do much good either. Vaping is especially risky as the levels of THC can be extraordinarily high compared to smoking a joint, says Dr. Madden. Besides secondhand smoke exposes babies to THC, it can also be harmful to their lungs. This is especially concerning for premature babies. So when can you get back to smoking weed? Well, you can resume smoking weed when you're done breastfeeding, though you should not smoke weed near your child regardless of their age because of their lungs. Are there safe alternatives? She's saying here, CBD products are not a viable alternative because their ingredients are excreted into breast milk as well. That's from Dr. Landon. And Dr. Madden goes on to say that we just don't have enough research about the harm that CBD products might cause to babies, but CBD is largely present in breast milk, just like THC, and the CBD products have potentially harmful additives and contaminants like heavy metals and pesticides that may pass into breast milk as well. Having to abstain from smoking weed during breastfeeding can be challenging for parents who rely on it to treat medical issues or mental health issues, so you should discuss medicinal alternatives with your healthcare provider. Although cannabis is not considered safe during breastfeeding, other medicines are. In fact, there are many medications that are compatible with breastfeeding that might work for you. Besides discussing options with your healthcare provider, you can look up medications and their impact on breastfeeding on the LACT-Med database, which is sponsored by the National Library of Medicine. It's normal to feel extra stressed when you have a new baby in your house. Babies have many intense needs, and it can be hard to balance their needs with your own. If you are working or taking care of other kids, your stress levels might even be higher. It's vital to remember that just because you're a parent doesn't mean you have to do it all. Accept help if it's offered and reach out for help if you can. As Dr. Madden says, the most important way to decrease stress after having a baby is to make sure new mothers have a lot of in-person help and support so they can focus on recuperating, resting, and feeding their babies. If you use cannabis to help with your mental health issues, you should speak to a therapist to help navigate your mental health issues while you have a new baby. Many prescription drugs and antidepressants are compatible with breastfeeding. You may also want to make some lifestyle changes, like spending more time outside, practicing yoga and mindfulness, taking walks, and making sure to take technology and social media breaks. It can be upsetting and frustrating to find out that smoking weed is a hard no while you're breastfeeding, especially if you were looking forward to resuming the practice after your pregnancy. But smoking weed is just not a risk you should take. If you're finding that eliminating weed is something that's difficult for you, or if you need further clarification on smoking weed or using CBD products during breastfeeding, be sure to connect with your medical provider for advice. So, that's that.
Well, I can't. It's your choice whether you do or you don't, but it's just good information to know.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, we always talk about research. They may be able to find, like, maybe microdosing could be okay for a breastfeeding mother. I mean, if you can take pharmaceuticals for mental health, there's a lot of pharmaceuticals that are pretty intense for mental health
Goes
issues.
right to the baby. Right. Goes
And
right
the baby's going to be getting that.
Right.
mean, I don't know how they couldn't.
Right.
So maybe as studies evolve and maybe they find out CBD could help or is okay. I don't know.
Or one of the other cannabinoids.
Yeah, or one of the other like a rare cannabinoid might be beneficial or okay.
The CBG, THCV.
Just have to keep watching for more
research.
research.
And research. So
that's that.
Yep. Cookies.
Cookies.
The brand from California.
Oh, we're talking about weed?
Yeah, we're talking about a weed brand, a company.
I thought it was time for a snack.
Snacks. In DeLand, Florida, a $100 million investment is said to bring hundreds of high-paying jobs to the city of DeLand. Cookies, a cannabis product company out of California, is building its Florida's headquarters there. Damn. The facility will be located on U.S. Route 92 and the first minority-owned business to get one of the state's less than 24 medical cannabis treatment center licenses. Good for them. Good for DeLand. Good for the jobs that are going to happen there. Minority-owned business is great. There's a cannabis store in Massachusetts that owes its employees $400,000 in wages to hundreds of employees. Theory Wellness, a Massachusetts cannabis company with 3 retail locations, has been ordered to pay close to $400,000 for back pay on for people working on Sundays and covered holidays.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah,
pay your people.
That's it. They work hard for you. Are high state cannabis taxes really the cause of tenacious black market? I've read stuff about Canada. I've read stuff about other states. We all know taxes are high in this state that we live in. Absolutely ridiculous pricing, taxes for recreational. But people still do go to the black market because cannabis. Here, put it this way. And some reports show in this article that 80% of California cannabis sales are still made in the black market despite full-scale legalization. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. Crazy. By raising the price of cannabis for consumers, these costs undermine a major competing purpose of legalization. An elimination of the black market claims a political study published last year by Reason Foundation has demonstrated by alcohol and cigarettes, excessive taxation can influence consumers' decisions to patronize the black market. In many ways, statewide cannabis legalization, even without the high tax rates, has stoked black market commerce nationwide, aside from the influx of unlicensed pot shops operating in legal states, making it challenging for legal operations to remain profitable. Illegal growers are using the liberal pot laws to produce a surplus of illicit pot and export it to areas of prohibition. If you think the taxes are bad in your state right now, wait till it goes federally legal, and if that bill goes through when they're taxing an extra 25%, you think the black market is not going to get even more? People are going to go right back to it again? I'm not paying that kind of high taxes. It's already ridiculous enough. Taxation instead of criminalization is what cannabis advocates have spent decades trying to sell. It was the leading advantage long before anyone ever thought that cannabis would eventually go legal. Can you imagine how much money the government would make if they would just legalize it? It was the typical spiel coming from the mouths of defenders of the doob. But now they complain that the taxation scheme isn't at all it's cracked up to be. Still, it's not even the local and state government are failing to generate substantial revenues by selling weed to adults 21 and over. Colorado continues to collect roughly $50 million a month for legitimate pot shops. $50 million a month. That's crazy. Crazy. So the real cause of tenacious black market pot trade isn't high taxes. It's nationwide prohibition. Once the federal government legalized it like alcohol and tobacco, something Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is trying to do, more states will jump on board the trend, if for no other reason than the tax revenue. Schumer's plan comes with a 25% tax rate, like I said, which is going to just drive people back to the black market, or move to states that you can grow your own.
Totally.
I grew 9.2 ounces of cannabis that will last us a while, that I don't now have to go buy any weed anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I'll be able to still give some away. And I'm still going to have enough to take 2 ounces of that and make edibles.
Right.
So that's why we fight for freeing this plant. Be able to grow it yourself or be able to get it from your neighbor just to give you some nugs. In the end, adult use cannabis laws in every state are the only way to effectively combat the black market. As long as there is a spot of prohibition, there will be some opportunity for criminal organizations to capitalize. Even when fully legal, just like with alcohol and the end of federal prohibition, illicit operations will continue to hang around for a while. Eventually, though, the people will pay to get back their pot legally, and the black market will become almost non-existent. Almost. So, it's very hard for me to tell people not to go to the black market when in Illinois a vape cartridge, a full gram, costs you over $100.
Yeah, but me personally, I like knowing where my stuff comes from.
So do I. But I'm just saying it's hard for me.
I like knowing what I smoke. But I also didn't really start smoking until we were able to get legal weed. You know what I mean? Like when I was young, when I was, in high school.
You started smoking again 10 years ago before weed was legal in Illinois.
But sometimes we'd be in California.
Right.
And it was legal.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Right. I would say a majority of what I was smoking was when we would travel and we'd be in a legal state.
True. But
you had a friend who grew some like that kind of a thing.
But you still smoke some stuff I got from a plug now and then.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was from people we knew and they grew.
Right.
People bringing it from California.
But I get it. I get why people go to the black market.
Me too.
It's cost prohibitive.
It's just hard to tell. Listen, if I only had $50 and a gram you're buying from somebody cost you $15, and you could buy a couple grams, it'll last you and that's what you smoke a week, and that's all you got. You're not going to get that at the dispensary.
Right.
Not in Illinois. So, forced labor impacts U.S. cannabis industry. Back in May, the cannabis industry was mindful of the U.S. prohibition on the importance of good produced by forced labor. It was a concern stemmed from growing interest in the part of our cannabis clients in establishing operations countries where they could take advantage both of subtle climate conditions and low labor cost. Unfortunately, there is no need to look past America's borders to find instances of forced labor. And a recently uncovered example of the despicable practices touches the cannabis industry. Earlier this month, authorities in Oregon raided a cannabis farm where it was suspected human trafficking and forced labor were taking place. For someone who tracks and advises on forced labor issues around the world, the language in the news reports has a familiar ring to it. Phrases like threat of harm to your family, not paid, and living in squalid conditions sound like they've been pulled out to expose on human rights violations in a faraway land, but instead describe what is happening a few miles away from the Oregon-California border. To be sure, forced labor in the United States is not exclusively an agricultural problem, as a previous Oregon case involving restaurants demonstrates. That said, agricultural work can be labor-intensive and take place in isolated locations. Moreover, many agricultural workers are undocumented, making them particularly vulnerable to abuse. As both an ethical and legal imperative, cannabis businesses should ensure that their supply chains are not tainted by forced labor. For businesses that depends on imports, compliance can prove daunting, with supplier audits a nearly impossibility. While not entirely free of challenges, auditing a domestic supply chain is much easier. When they do the right things, companies will have a considerable degree of certainty that their supply chains are clean. Man, that you could even think about that forced labor, making living bad conditions and stuff like that. Instagram Instagram's been on a fucking tear lately, worldwide when it comes to cannabis, especially in states and country where weed is legal. They've been banned. People that I follow have been losing their sites, losing like 100,000 subscribers on their channel on their Instagram, like and they can't get it back, and they got to restart all over again. They've just been just shutting down. If anybody out there promotes cannabis, or if you're just a regular, be careful on the hashtags you're using too. Like, don't put like right now. I guess someone was saying that I read that don't put like hashtag weed or hashtag I smoke weed every day. Just certain things that are going to trigger what they're looking for to ban you, and then you got to start a new profile, which sucks. So
they ban, like they stop your account.
Yeah,
completely?
They shut your account down. Yeah, and you can't get it back. They'll send you all your pictures and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, but they won't. You have to start all over again. There's been a lot going on that. I mean, all these people that I follow have been coming back on, going, "Hey, help me out, follow us," again, whatever. So yeah, it's pretty bad. So I don't know. It's weird. Crazy thing, what's going on in California right now? There's an oversupply of cannabis, and it's driving the prices way down. And so it's California. It's worth about $5 billion in cannabis overall. The whole thing. That's a lot of money. And with the growers, there's so many grow ops there, and so much illegal grow there also, that it's driving the prices down per pound. Like, they've been seeing pounds for like $800 of like really good indoor grow, or really good outdoor grow, or meatier indoor. It's still driving the price down. They were talking about in Humboldt County, where like the Green Triangle, where it's like the prices are out of control. Like, and some of these guys might not be in existence in a few years.
Wow,
it's crazy. Like, where weed all started, some of the best weed in the world grown in that area. So good
there's
luck.
a lot going on in California right now.
Well, with fires,
lack of travel, people leaving, moving out of the state,
right?
COVID,
But they're saying
fires.
also fires,
Right.
environmental changes, no water.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be struggling for a while. And bloodbath, meaning not high prices. People are going to be driving the prices down just to sell whatever excess they have, or to get rid of it. So just
turn
crazy.
some profit.
Yep. Michigan cannabis rules change include new licenses, lower fees, and social equity. Good for you, Michigan. Massachusetts cannabis sales topped $2 billion since launch of adult use market. That's a lot of money. Only been a couple of years too. Illinois does another good month, $100 million, over $100 million for the 6th month in a row. That's big. And no Lollapalooza, and they still did $121 million, down like $6 million from last month, but you got to think it was July. So, and 2,700,230 items sold. In state, 81 million. Out of state, 40 million.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Indiana and Wisconsin, thank you.
Iowa.
It'd be nice if we saw some of that.
Crazy.
I've never looked at the budget where they intend to spend all the dollars.
It's
all
there's all percentage, like
25%
25% goes there. Yeah.
I want to know where there is.
I think I could send that to you.
I'm curious.
Also in Illinois, there's going to be another lottery with 6 extra cannabis licenses giving out, because there was some people saying they didn't get a fair shot. So 6 more licenses going out.
Good.
So
hopefully they go to the right people.
Well, they want to. There was 185 new licenses just given out this summer, but they want to go all the way up to 500 permits in the next couple of years by like 2025. So
did you say for growers or for dispensaries?
Dispensaries. Okay. And in Illinois, the cannabis smoking lounges are off to a great success, where 60 and 70-year-old dudes are walking in with their tie-dyes and just lighting up. Good for that cannabis.
I want to go to one.
There's one coming to and operating in DeKalb. It's called Sessers. They were the first one. We talked about them. Mm-hmm. Plans to work on open locations in West Peoria and Carbondale also. I'll go out there. Microdosing.
Yeah.
I like it. I do it every once in a while during the day. Might take a 2.5 milligrams something, take a half edible, take a 5 milligram edible. Just like if I'm driving a lot, I got back pain or something when I come home, and I don't want to smoke yet. So what about microdosing?
Well, I have an article here on how to microdose cannabis for a super efficient but subtle high. So microdosing, just on a recap, is essentially using a very low dose of cannabis. But again, a low dose is different for everybody, right? So you have to find out what that low dose is. An entry level dose that doesn't make you feel like knocked off your ass high, but maybe helps you if you have anxiety issues or a stressful day, whatever is going on. It might help you just get through that day. So anyway, back to this article. Even as glossy magazines and wellness influencers have adopted cannabis, primarily CBD, as their new superfood, snake oil, the taboo still surrounds people who partake. It is still a potent taboo. And the common perception of cannabis consumption has not budged in the 7 years I've been writing about it. Many automatically balk, thinking immediately of big joints, bongs, or brownies filled to the brim with as much intoxicating THC as possible. But while it's just a professional observation, I think these taboos fuel overconsumption of cannabis more than safe, free access does. As with any intoxicating substance, there will always be those who abuse, but big doses of cannabis are vital medicine for many people. Even if you've had a bad experience, demonizing it harmful to people who already deal with health issues. Boy, I can't read right now. I really can't. Like my brain is going slower than my eyeballs.
So this
are
weed
reading.
doesn't make you more.
I was
clear?
super great for the last episode, and now, or for the last article, and now all of a sudden it's like I hit a like a wave of feeling high. And again, we only took that one hit.
Maybe you should smoke more.
Okay, let's try this again. As with any intoxicating substance, there will always be those who abuse, but big doses of cannabis are vital medicine for many people. Even if you've had a bad experience, demonizing it is harmful to people who already deal with health issues, so please don't do that. Microdosing, on the other hand, was a novel concept some years ago, but is now a staple in legal cannabis markets, offering an alternative way to harness the goodness of the good stuff without getting overly high. Let us break down the ins and outs of using small amounts of cannabis and why you might want to. What counts as a microdose? A microdose to you is completely dependent on your body and can vary with your consumption habits, what you eat, your caffeine intake, and alcohol consumption. For some, what's considered a microdose is as low as a 0.5 milligram of THC, while for others, a baby buzz hits at around 5 milligrams. It's sometimes complicated to execute. Most legal market edibles have 10 milligrams per piece and top out at a total of 100 milligrams of THC per bag. Unless each piece is big enough to cut into 10 more pieces, which they often aren't, there is no good way to reliably microdose with that sort of product. Switch gears and look at joints, which often clock in around 100 milligrams each. Too many factors control how they burn, making smoking another subpar way to microdose in a truly exact way. But don't let that stop you. The just a hit contingency has experienced success with their methodology for ages. Cannabis beverages and tinctures, though, are the most measurable way to microdose outside of products specifically designed to deliver small doses. It's very easy to calculate how much liquid to consume based on the total cannabinoids on the label, and deploying droppers and bar tools is a lot easier than weighing and cutting a product accurately. The formula is very straightforward. Divide the stated cannabinoid content by the total volume. So if there's a total of 100 milligrams of THC in your tincture, say it's a 30 milliliter bottle, there's 100 milligrams of THC, right? then you're going to have about 3.3 milligrams of cannabinoids per 1 milliliter dropper. So you just have to do like a little conversion, right? There's conversion apps on, you can just type in that you need a milligram to milliliter conversion chart, and you can break down the measurements.
You can ask Siri.
And you can ask Siri.
But she kind of sucks sometimes.
I think I would type it in so you could actually see that you're getting the right information. And so that's cool because we've had plenty of microdose type edibles, and they usually they're like separate individual pieces, a gummy or a chocolate, whatever, and they're 2.5 milligrams each or 5 milligrams each. Very easy, right? They're already dosed that way. But say you get some states, they'll still sell an edible drink that is like 100 milligrams, like this article is saying, for the whole bottle. Well, then you have to figure out, like, do I just drink like literally a sip of this, a teaspoon, a tablespoon? So it's really important to figure out when you're looking at it that way, or say it's one big giant chocolate bar. And most of the chocolate bars are good, and they have kind of like breakaway lines. So you know a dose is one of those sections of the bar. But say you just get this block of chocolate. You have no idea how to break it down.
I've even tried those, and you didn't like the taste of it, though. We tried that Mio-style drink where you...
Yeah, the drops.
Where you measure it.
It was a little challenging to measure that, though.
Was it?
Yeah, I didn't find it that easy.
Well, I liked it.
I think it was the container.
You didn't like the taste, but you had yours in straight water. I had mine in seltzer, so... where you could just squeeze it up to the line and it pours it in, kind of like.
And
that
was like
Mios.
a 5 milligram.
Yeah, that
dose.
was 5.
But for me, 5 milligrams is fine. If I was microdosing, like say I was somebody who wanted to work and microdose through my day, 5 milligrams would be too much. I think I would do like a 2.5 milligram microdose, because then I would feel like I'm not outwardly high. I might just feel like more relaxed or calm while I'm working.
You took a tablet the other day, and you said it worked perfectly. It was a 5 and 5 balanced one.
I was out at an event, and I decided to take, and these things were great. They were little packaged pills, and they were themed, like if you wanted to feel smart. So it was like something that made you clear thinking. And then there was one that was energetic. If there was one for feeling sensual. There's one the other one was like for energy.
Bliss or something.
And one was for energy. So I went out, and I knew I was going to be driving. We were going to be at this event for 3 to 4 hours. So like right after we got there, I was like, ooh, I've got this pill in my purse. I'm going to take it. So I took it, 5 milligrams, and it was perfect. I did not feel off at all. Danced, had a good old time, had a couple drinks. It was an outdoor event. And
you had to talk to people too.
And I had to talk, and I felt great. But for some people, I think that 5 milligram, especially if they were drinking, might be too much.
Right.
So just like anything, when you're starting to consume cannabis, start low, go slow, and get to know what your body likes. Because especially with consumables, there's a lot of variables.
Can you make like a rap with that? Start low, go slow.
Start slow, go slow, get to know your consumable.
Kinda? I like the other line you used before.
I don't even remember what I said.
Start low, go slow, let your body know how it feels.
That doesn't even rhyme.
It doesn't have to rhyme.
Oh, we would not be good rappers. I'm going to keep reading. So why would you try microdosing cannabis? Well, aside from simply wanting to limit your intoxication, in any given situation, there are many reasons for microdosing. Research has been ramping up over the last decade, but the primary source of information is still the cannabis community itself. One recent study, while promising for dosers seeking relief, shows the hands of the players paying for these experiments are the ones who are trying to patent proprietary technology to gain an edge in the cannabis pharmaceutical market. But I mean, research is research. So if that's what it takes to get the research done,
yeah,
they're trying to come up with a solution. So if they want to spend the money to research microdosing and all of these things, so they can develop a product that's helpful, hey, go for it, right?
Yep.
People who deal with anxiety are fans of the microdose as well. In a report from 2020 in the Journal of Translational Medicine, researchers noted in their conclusion that based on current data, cannabinoid therapies containing primarily CBD may provide a more suitable treatment for people with pre-existing anxiety or as a potential adjunctive role in managing anxiety or stress-related disorders. These studies have hinted, but not proven, that when it comes to managing anxiety and pain, low doses might be the sweet spot, especially if you aren't fond of cannabis side effects of getting high that recreational users actively covet. You can microdose other cannabinoids as well. Don't let your aversion or your possible aversion to THC turn you off of cannabis completely. While people tout hemp, Delta 8, and other alternative cannabis products, weed flowers are weed flowers, be they high in THC, CBD, or any of the dozens of other cannabinoids. CBD is a big research focus, though, since it's not psychoactive, making it a safe bet for newbies who want to experiment with dosing. Other cannabinoids are coming to the table too, like CBG and CBN. While less studied than CBD and THC, enthusiasts claim that both help with overall health, and CBN is becoming more common as a sleep aid.
Such a hot cannabinoid right now.
Yeah. So what do you try? All right. You want to start microdosing. You want to give this a shot. Where do you go? What do you do? Well, microdosing used to be a DIY endeavor. In many states, you can access purpose-designed products to give you not only a precise dose, like the product I took the other night, right? But also consistency that can be otherwise difficult for a beginner to achieve at home. Whether you're a one-time hater of weed or a new and willing explorer, microdosing is a pleasant experience. Journaling your doses and responses is the key to fine-tuning your experience. You can rule out bigger doses when the effects have come on too strong and note when the effects of a small dose are too subtle, as well as chart your response to new products. If you approach cannabis with a healthy curiosity and patience, there is a perfect cocktail of cannabinoids and strength for everybody. I attest to that.
Yeah, 100%.
Hands down.
Yeah, good article.
Yeah.
Really good. International news, in Laos, $2.1 million worth of cannabis was seized.
Dang.
Man, they need to free
How
the plant.
much?
$2.1 million. That's not a lot, but
No.
it's not a big country, but they need to free the plant there. Panama is close to legalizing medicinal cannabis. Go Panama. 2 women. I'm not a woman, but there's 2 women that you're going to read an article about that are talking about cannabis and infused stuff to approach aging better, I guess.
Yeah.
How do you stay young
Well,
with cannabis?
It's not really. It's really about things that most of our male listeners are not going to care about. But this is really important because you know what? You might be dealing with somebody going through this, right?
That's what I think. That's why when I was reading this and I sent it over to you, we're married 26 years. You know, there's people out there we know that in this article what they're going through right now, and for somebody like myself to understand it more, or to offer aid to help, and I don't know what a woman feels when she goes through this.
We're referring to menopause.
Yes. And I didn't want to steal your thunder and what you're going to talk about.
Let me get to it.
So I'm just saying, though, why I thought this was so important for somebody like myself who's married for 26 years to you, or even somebody who I know that's going through this.
He's nervous, ladies and gentlemen. He's nervous. The days are approaching. I'm going to get crazy. I'm going to need a lot of weed.
I just want to understand it better so I can help.
Right.
That's why I'm not nervous about it at all. I just want to help. What can I do to be a better husband to help this?
Okay.
That's all.
All right, Mr. Weedman. You want to know?
Yes.
Well, we've got 2 women and their cannabis-infused approach to aging well. Lilac Mazer Power. I love her name. Lilac is her first name. Mazer, middle name, Power. I bet she had cool parents.
I bet she did.
Right? They were trippy. She is the cannabis CEO and brand builder and has always enjoyed the entrepreneurial challenge of building something new. Now, nearly a decade after securing one of Arizona's original licenses, she's carving out a new market niche by tackling a subject most don't want to talk about. Lilac and her partner Steph Sweargall, just launched Revelry, a women-focused brand with a cannabis twist. Currently available in Arizona, the Wellness Collection brings a plant-based approach to two underserved healthcare conditions, perimenopause and menopause, and features THC-infused day and night capsules, as well as a CBD-infused intimacy oil. Despite being an overlooked subject, 6,000 women enter menopause every day in the U.S., with 75% of them experiencing hot flashes, night sweats, and other lifestyle-inhibiting symptoms. In fact, a recent analysis published on Medical News Today looked into these symptoms and revealed that sleep disruption tends to increase as people age, affecting roughly 16 to 42% of people in premenopause. So that would be like women in their early 40s, right? Around 39 to 47% of people in their perimenopause. So now you're like mid 40s, late 40s. And then approximately 35 to 60% of people post-menopause. Now you're like, I guess the perimenopause would be into your early 50s. And then post-menopause, hopefully, is by the time you're 60.
That's a lot of pauses.
Pause. Right? More research has urged companies to turn their attention to women's health issues. Recent analysis estimates that global femtech solutions industries could surge from $648 million in sales in 2020 to $1.5 billion by 2025. Lilac is also the founder of Giving Tree Dispensary, which achieved Inc. 5000 recognition in 2021. This venture was one that sparked the idea of creating Revelry, after years of watching women desperately looking for solutions for the symptoms of menopause and how many of them found relief with cannabis. Seeking to take the guesswork out of cannabis dosing for women, Lilac and Steph created a product line tailored to their unique needs. I'm hoping we create a movement that continues to evolve the dialogue around cannabis. We want women to know what's coming, to feel comfortable talking about it, and to make it through perimenopause and menopause with ease, Lilac says, pointing out that Revelry comes in to fill this gap in society and the market. Until recently, I have not seen real, honest, and mature depictions of menopause in our culture, and I think this product has the potential to change that, she voices. And Steph adds, women have lots of options when it comes to treating menopause symptoms, but the offering of credible, reliable, plant-based solutions is slim to none. We believe that the therapeutic attributes of cannabis can help women safely navigate their symptoms. People don't like talking about aging. It's a matter of overcoming stigma, and the duo concludes. Women's worth in our society is defined by their ability to have and raise children, and menopause marks the end of that time. We want to reframe what womanhood is and celebrate it. So pretty cool women that they're putting this together, and crazy. It's like one of those things like the common cold sores, cancer. Like, why haven't we figured this shit out? Like, people are so smart, and there's scientists that are figuring out crazy things, but we still can't figure in menopause. Like, it's still happening. Women are still dealing with, and you think that that's hormones. Like, why can't they get that figured out? So if cannabis can play into it and help women, that would be huge.
That'd be dope.
Huge.
Yeah. I'm not nervous about it. I just want to know how I can help.
I don't know. Buy me lots of cannabis.
I grow it, so you can just go in the closet and get it out of any jar you want.
You're going to find me in the fetal position in the corner, eating a bunch of edibles, sweating profusely. And then I'll scowl at you like...
Well, if they do more research and they find stuff that will help, maybe there's a cannabinoid that can help. Maybe there's a terpene in there that can help. I know I just feel bad. Great. I think it's misery. This is funny. I got to show you the picture after the show, but a Tennessee grandma flips off cops in a mugshot after getting busted with 20 pounds of cannabis.
Grandma? 20 pounds? Yeah. Where's she running that
An older Tennessee woman gave cops a double middle finger salute in a mugshot that is not only destined for viral notoriety, but one that has also likely inducted her into the kingdom or queendom of fearless cannabis legends. Jackson County resident Peggy Brewington was arrested on August 30th after cops raided her home and discovered a small weed grow and a massive stash of dried bud. The raid was a conclusion of a month-long investigation by two separate state law enforcement agencies, the Jackson Sheriff's Office and the 15th Drug Task Force, the DTF, Tennessee. Cops initially arrested Brewington on August 27th for trespassing and then raided her home 3 days later. Wait, you saw it?
I had to pull up her photo. It's really funny. She's just like straight faced.
Oh, yeah.
And two birds.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
We should. I gotta post that.
Yeah.
When cops arrived to conduct a search, they asked Brewington exactly how much weed she had in her residence. Maybe about an ounce, she replied, according to the social media post by the 15th DTF. A thorough investigation of the property soon showed that it was quite the underestimate. Cops said they found over 20 pounds of weed in Brewington's home and dozens of cannabis plants growing on her farm. Officers recovered over 20 pounds of cannabis from the residence of approximately 40 cannabis plants from the property. The 15th DTF wrote in its Facebook post, accompanied by several pictures of healthy weed plants that they ripped out of the ground. A second search was conducted at a nearby residence, and more growing processed cannabis was recovered. If I said that right. Growing cannabis and processed cannabis was recovered. Oh, I got confused because they put marijuana there. They got to stop in these articles, man. It's cannabis. For the second time in a week, Brewington was hauled into the local jail, where she flipped off the camera in her soon-to-be classic mugshot. Police will present her case to the Jackson County grand jury, who will determine what charges will be filed against her. Authorities have not yet disclosed whether the additional weed discovered nearby related Brewington's case. Tennessee residents definitely seem to have a unique way of protesting the state's excessive weed laws. Last year, a local man who was in court for a minor possession charge lit up a joint and smoked it right in front of the judge. Hell yeah! I've read about that guy. I was so excited for him. Of course, the young man lost his case and was sentenced to additional charges, but he unfortunately died in an unrelated car accident in January. Oh, rest in peace. It's no surprise that the Tennessee natives are so pissed off about getting busted for minor pot crimes. The volunteer state is one of the minority of states the USA still prohibits weed in every form, including medical pot. State cops have even raided stores that sold CBD products, which are technically legal under the federal laws, state and federal laws. Individual cities like Memphis and Nashville have tried to decriminalize pot, but the state lawmakers passed a law in 2017 and overturned these local ordinances, reinstating prison time and fines for pot offenses. Earlier this summer, the state rep Bruce Griffey proposed a bill that would place 3 non-binding cannabis questions on the state of 2022 election ballot. If passed, the bill will allow voters to share their opinions on whether the state can decriminalize minor pot possessions, legalize medical cannabis, and legalize full adult use sales. Lawmakers have shut down literally every other cannabis reform bill that says hit the books, though it so remains. So it will be seen whether or not we'll even allow this simple request for public opinion to succeed. They need to fucking fix that shit in Tennessee. I mean, come on. It's a great state. You need to follow Oklahoma's lead.
Yeah, right? The Wild West.
You know? So, well, everybody, O'Day to that grandma. Just growing buds in Tennessee. Love it. So, she needs to get out. So, I don't know. No prison time for grandma.
Let grandma go.
Yeah, free grandma. Oh, shit. What a great show, Mrs. Weedman. You got anything else to say?
I think it's time to smoke again.
Oh, hell yeah. Majin Fajita. We're going to be smoking that for a while in this show, so...
get used to it.
Yeah, get used to it. I got a lot of it. So
we have so much.
Yeah, so... hey, everybody. We love you all. Thanks for listening out there. Don't forget to check us out on Weedman 420 Chronicles on Instagram, Weedman420 Pod on Twitter. Shoot us an email, weedman420chronicles@gmail.com. Everybody, we love you all around the world. As Paulie always says, smoke smart, puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.